and welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rathbun. As you might have guessed, this podcast is dedicated to kindness. Kindness is a superpower that each and every one of us possesses, a force that is strong enough to drastically impact your life and the lives of those around you for the better. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about kindness, and let's talk about how each and every one of us can use kindness to change the world. Welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. I am your host, Mike Rathbun, and today is going to be a really, really good day. I reached out to people asking for, guests that could talk about kindness or kindness they've experienced or ways that we could all be more kind. And I had this amazing person reach out to me. She's a best-selling author, and her name is Jillian Abby. And she's here with me today. Welcome, Jillian.
Hi, Mike. I'm so excited to be here. I've already got goosebumps all over.
This is going to be such a great conversation. And for anybody who's listening, if you want to follow a content creator, I mean, all of our links are going to be in the show notes, but Jillian is absolutely amazing. Her TikTok channel, her Instagram, there's a picture of you at a book signing with your feet up on your Instagram. I'm like, and I may just use that as the cover art for this show. I don't know.
That's fine. That sums up me. That was a candid shot that a friend caught in my book signing, and I was like, "Yep, that's me. That's just doing it my own way."
If you wanted to know anything about Jillian, there it is, right there.
There it is. Yep.
In glorious Kodachrome. Anyway.
Yeah.
So now, Jillian, your book is called, and I was just going to say Perfectly Queer. Yep. But it's more than that. You have a really long title for that book.
It is. So it's got a title of Perfectly Queer, and then there is a subtitle or a tagline to it that says Facing Big Fears, Living Hard Truths, and Loving Myself Fully Out of the Closet. Which I think everyone can resonate with all of those lines until you get to the out of the closet line.
Maybe not everybody could resonate with that, but yeah.
Right. But we've all, had to face big things, and there are truths that we've had to face or not face in our life. So that's my story.
Right. And absolutely. I take heart in the fact that you actually had to read that. I saw you reading it.
Yeah.
You didn't have it memorized.
Yeah, I don't. I have the memory of a goldfish. I'm not going to lie.
This is a brand new book for you. This was released April 23rd?
April 25th.
April 25th.
Yep. It came out for Lesbian Visibility Week, which is that huge holiday that everybody celebrates.
I celebrate that. I don't know quite how to do it right. Do you give out candy or?
I don't know. I change out of my camouflage ninja suit, and I'm like, oh, you can see me today. I'm wearing neon. I don't know. So, I'll figure out a better way.
For those who haven't read the book, and it's to their detriment if they haven't, tell us what is the story?
Okay, so on a very high level, it's a story about me as a mother, as a wife, as a small business owner who lived a life that by all societal standards was absolutely perfect, going into a craniosacral therapy session and finally being able to admit and accept and love the fact that I was a lesbian.
I'm sorry, a
craniosacral therapy, and we can talk about that in a little bit, but it's basically a type of somato-emotional body work that works with our bodies, the physical body, and the emotions that we hold in our body. And so clearly I was suppressing my queerness for quite some time. And finally, I was with somebody who created a safe and loving enough space that I could say out loud, I'm gay.
Wow.
And accept that about myself. And then the book is about everything that happens after the fact, because I still had a whole life that I had built around this identity that wasn't true to me. So the book deals a
Wow.
lot with perfectionism, parenting, when we have to choose, when we have to make hard choices that are going to hurt people we love in the short term, but still be the right thing to do and hopefully
Right.
better for everyone in the long term. Um,
Sure.
and, there's a lot of humor and cheese in here too, because again, that is me.
That's who you are.
That is me. Yeah.
Is that your coping mechanism? Is it humor?
I think so. I kind of think so. I was like, let's just make this weird instead. And maybe I won't feel as weird if it's just weird. Let's make it extra weird.
What was
Yeah.
that minivan drive home like
Oh, from the
after
therapy
you'd had
session?
the, yeah,
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So, there's a part in the book where I talk about, I finally reveal my truth, and it's like 99 angels descend from heaven and they're playing their kazoos and their glockenspiels and whatever else angels play. I don't really know.
kazoos.
Right? Can you imagine? And then I sit up on the table and the therapist hands me a glass of water. And then I start pouring out tears of a different kind, because it's like this person who I have built a life with, who I loved deeply. Um, I am eventually going to have to face them, and we have to figure this out.
Right.
And I didn't even know what that future looked like. I didn't have another person that I was looking to date or a lot. This is who I am, and I've known this, and I've just tried to hide it for so long, and I can't hide it anymore.
I
Um,
can only imagine the emotions that come with that. I mean, you're happy that you found out who you really are and admitted it to yourself,
mhm.
but at the same time, this is going to cause some pain to some
I
people.
love, yeah, I love that you picked up on that, Mike, because it is one of those strangely happy, sad it's a bucket of emotions. And I think it was very strange as I was coming out that sometimes people had an expectation of how they thought I should be feeling or acting. Like if I were happy about coming out, they're like, but you're going through a divorce and look what you're putting your children through. How dare you be happy? If I
Right.
was sad about it and everything I was going through, then it was like, well, is this not really true? Do you not love yourself? Are you not happy about this choice to come
Right.
out? So I think it's great that you're pointing out that it's all the
It's,
things.
yeah, it's a big mixed bag.
It sure is.
It's a
It's like
huge
trail
market.
mix.
Huh?
It's like trail mix. Yeah. Like there's all the things mixed together.
Ooh, a cashew.
Right. I didn't want that piece. I want the M&Ms. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I think, and how this mixes in, because obviously this podcast is about kindness and how
Mhm.
we can be more kind, but also how we can foster kindness. And
Mhm.
I mean, if you have 1,000 people who've come out, you probably have 1,000 different stories about how that experience played out, because nobody is the same, right?
Absolutely not.
Nobody's coming out story is exactly the same as somebody else's. Um, and one of the things I like about coming out stories, and it reminds me of a Winston Churchill quote, and you're thinking, how in the world does that work? Winston Churchill said, success is not final, failure is not fatal.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people, when they first come out, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I've never come out as anything really. um, Sometimes the initial reaction is not what we were hoping for, but that doesn't mean that friendship, parent child relationship is damaged beyond repair.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, personal story. My youngest son came out to me in 2015 as trans.
Hmm.
And earlier that year, my mother had passed, and it did a number on me. But
Sure.
I was still grieving when he came out to me. And I think initially I said something like, I love you. I just want you to be happy. I don't care how you identify, which maybe wasn't necessarily the best, but it was better than what came out of my mouth next, which was,
Hmm.
oh, great. I've lost my mother and my daughter at the same year.
Hmm.
And that hurt him a lot. And talk about words you wish you could take back, but you can't, right?
Yeah.
So,
I
but we've moved on and we have a very good relationship now. And I fully accept him as who he is. But
I love that, Mike.
are you going to cry again?
I
No.
am. It's
Dang
gonna be
it.
a day, but
It's going to be a day.
I love these stories because and I'll let you continue, but
No, I'm done.
I love the growth and change. I mean,
Yeah,
if there's one thing I think we could gift to everyone today is that you can you can play a role in cultivating how you want to feel about the situation and the relationship that you want to have.
right,
And we don't say the right thing many times, particularly when it comes to coming out. And I think part of that is because we don't have the conversations around it. I'm sure there are people who are listening to this that as soon as they realized that the podcast was going to be about an LGBTQ theme, thought, I can't listen to this,
la la
or
la
I
la.
don't want to listen to this, or this is not appropriate, this is not relevant to me. And the reality is nowadays, every one of us has somebody in our lives who is part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yep,
And so I think it's great that we can have this space and have these conversations and so let's talk through it. What you
exactly.
said was good. What else could we say that might even be better? How can we better we prepare for so much in life. We prepare for job interviews and everything else, but this is one realm where we are totally caught off guard,
Yeah,
where we
oh,
don't
for
know what
sure.
to say.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, but to prepare for that conversation,
Yeah.
I mean, what does that look like? On the
Well,
off chance that my kid decides, X, Y,
right.
Z, I'm going to
Right.
mentally have this conversation in my head. But yeah,
And maybe it's not preparing. Maybe it's just I've heard this story and you know what, I'm going to just file that in my little mental filing cabinet. I mean, there's a lot of that. You stored a Winston Churchill quote that you could pull out for the most perfect time, right? So
right.
we don't need to do this here's your manual of just in case your child comes out. But and this is honestly, that's such a big part of why I even wrote my story. It wasn't just because I'm this is super cool, everybody needs to learn about me. It's because if somebody would be willing to read the story and go, oh wow, I didn't realize that it was like that for,
Sure.
and every situation is unique, but I read about people in all different walks of life just so I can understand a little bit better about what they're going through. And I never would have known that had I not heard a story from them. So I'm glad
Okay.
we're having this story today. I'm glad we're having
Yeah.
this conversation.
Yeah. Um, so what can well, I think you kind of went through it. Um, in order to be kinder to members of the you did that you did
Legitimate
that on a
I did.
TikTok. Do it again. Say it again.
The legitimate Yeah, we're just
Community.
going to, I sound French and cool, and it's easier than saying LGBTQIA 2S plus community. I'm getting good at that though too.
2S plus? That might be
So
something I'm not familiar with. We
it
keep
stands for
adding
Two
things.
Spirit. We do. I know. We're working to claim the entire alphabet.
What does 2SA stand for again?
So 2S is for the Two Spirit community, which is our indigenous community, and their recognition of, and the Two Spirit is a term that can only be used by indigenous people, but it's recognition of their identity of people who were both the masculine and feminine energy in one. And
Oh,
then plus, because there are more identities that we have yet to, I mean, the pansexuals don't get in the
we'll
acronym a
get
lot of the
back to you
time.
on that.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. There'll be a
Right.
newsletter coming out soon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And it's so important because there's a lot of angry conversations. There's not the kind of
Mhm.
conversations that we need to be having.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, I think, and I really wanted to make this about your story, and we still will. But I think, we have to start, we also have to recognize that there's a lot of young people who are in the community
Hmm.
who are suffering right now,
Absolutely.
because of policies. And I don't want to make this a political podcast. I really, really, really don't. Because I've done that. I've been there. And it did a number on me. You can't be submerged in the 24-hour news cycle and not have that affect you. I don't know how news anchors do it,
Mm.
but have that affect you somehow. I was always angry and I was always sad. And that's why I'm doing shows like this
Yeah.
that are happier for the most part. And I just went off on a whole tangent, didn't I? You're supposed to stop me.
No, I love it. I'm here. I'm here for the conversation. I am Miss Tangent USA, so don't worry.
But yeah, um, we
We want to
really
feel
need. We
good.
could be kinder to
Hmm.
the youth in this
Yeah.
country who are discovering who they are, and instead of just shutting down any conversation about that and pretending that it doesn't exist, have a kind conversation about it.
Yes. Are you familiar with Oobleck from Dr. Seuss?
No,
Oh, okay.
which
So
book
there,
was that in?
Dr. Seuss wrote a book called Bartholomew and the Oobleck. But
Okay.
Oobleck is like a science experiment that, and maybe this is just to the I don't know, it's just whatever. It's a big science experiment that elementary schoolers love to do where they mix cornstarch and water. And it's a non Newtonian fluid. And what that means is when the kids try and jam their hands into the Oobleck, it's a solid. And when they're go slow and easy into the oobleck, dipping their hands in, it's a liquid. And the reason why I love mentioning oobleck, and I've mentioned it in my book, is because I feel like we have to be oobleck in our conversations and in our situations. When we're softer and we go slowly, we're open to things, we're open to change, and we can get more done.
For
But
sure.
if we're going to be hard and rigid and attack things full force and with a lot of energy, good or bad, behind it, it becomes immovable. So, anyways,
I'm gonna have to. That wasn't one of the ones. No, that wasn't one of the ones. I've never heard of that one actually.
oh
I
yeah,
thought
we'll
I was.
include a link to a oobleck recipe in the show
I'm doing
notes.
it.
No. Amongst
Well,
other things.
Bartholomew and the Oobleck.
Bartholomew and the Oobleck is the book, but yeah, it's basically a slime that we create. And in my own book, I'm far more eloquent in describing our relationships of how we can be like Oobleck. But in that chapter is where I talk about my relationship with my mom. And one of the threads throughout the story is how she reacted to my coming out. And my mom and I were always very close. She was my best friend growing up. Um, when I came out, our relationship fractured for so many reasons. And there were a lot of hurtful things said. And I think this is what goes back to my main point and what we were talking about before, when there are so many negative and hard feelings about it, is that I had a therapist say to me, how do you want to feel about this? So it wasn't trying to change my mom's beliefs or thoughts or who she was. It was, how do I want to feel about my relationship with her about this situation. And I came to the point where I said, I don't want to lose this relationship. I know I could. I know there's a lot of people who are like, you're cut off. You're cut off. This isn't good for me. I wanted to do the work that I could do on my end to try and repair our relationship. And fortunately, she wanted to do the same.
That's, oh boy, that's good.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
because you throw away a 38-year-old relationship over something like that.
Right. And the one thing I didn't realize is that, and this is what's really hard and unique about coming out, is so coming out, it's a big deal. And it's a trauma. There are a lot of trauma responses that happen for a person who's coming out, even in the best cases of scenarios. So the way my podcast co-host, Dr. Trisha Peterson, described it to me is she said, your coming out is like a stone that's dropped in the water.
Okay.
That stone creates ripples. And the ripples are the people in your life who are affected by your coming out. So that would be your parents, your children, your now
Siblings.
ex-spouse,
Yeah.
siblings, whatever. And then as you get farther out, your friends, there's somewhat of an effect there. And then strangers, you meet the pest guy who comes to your door and says, where's your husband? Like there, there's further ripples out. But the most fascinating thing she said to me is that the healing can't happen between people in the same ripple or like close enough to me. So basically, my mom's healing couldn't come from me. I couldn't be the one to answer all of her questions about what she was feeling about the LGBTQ because I was in such a raw state and trying to do my own healing as well.
Sure.
And conversely, I couldn't keep shooting back at her trying to defend myself and every reason why I was allowed to be who I was. I needed help from people in different ripples, whether that be friends, therapists, etc., to help and support me. And because when we cling to each other, and this may even be spouses in a coming out situation, if spouses have a different and I mean when your child comes out, so like a child comes out and you have two parents who are trying to navigate it, and they are also going to come from their unique view on the situation. They can't always cling to each other for support because if you cling to someone who's also drowning in the water, you're both going to sink.
Right. Exactly.
So, we need these outside resources to help support people in this process.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I never thought about it that way.
I didn't either. I kept trying to cling to my mom and my spouse that I was divorcing and going, why aren't they helping me? Why don't they understand?
Yeah, for sure.
And they were doing the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I think, and you and I have talked email or what have you. And sometimes I think this whole podcast idea of mine, where the world could change if we were just kinder, and it sounds like this kumbaya fantasy, right? Because there will always be people who don't agree with you or what you're doing or who you're loving or whatever the case may be. But I can't help but think that if we just saw people as other humans who go through the same things that we do, who wake up late in the morning for work, who, before we see them as the myriad of labels that we have for other people. Oh, they're queer. Oh, they're Democrat. Oh, they're Republican. Oh, they're, Buddhist instead of Christian. And we see all these reasons to hate other people or dislike them. Hate my wife. Hate is a strong word.
I am that lady too.
Are you? Are you that lady?
I tell my kids, can we choose a different word with it? Anyways,
hate is
another tangent.
Word. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I'm shrugging. My
yeah,
audience can't see that, but I'm shrugging.
well, I think sometimes we feel like we have the responsibility, and I especially feel this as a parent, like we have to create someone else's life for them. And so when they start existing in a way that we don't view as ideal for them, we get
Right,
prickly. And then we're like, hey, no, we're going to try and get you back on, on the way that I think you should be living your life.
right,
When really, our purpose here as humans is just to love each other through this human experience. But everybody is their own person. And if you want to turn that back around, I mean, just think of, we all have gotten unsolicited advice from other people in our own life.
oh
Like,
yeah,
how does that feel to you? If you don't like somebody telling you that this is the job you should have, this is the person you should date, um, this is where you should live, this is where you should study or worship or whatever. If that doesn't feel good to you, then don't put that on another person. Just love them and trust that they need to go through whatever they're going through.
yeah, absolutely. And the golden rule, right?
Yeah.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I've been
Yeah.
kicking this one around. I'm looking for a preacher to have this conversation with me
Uh,
because that is the same in every single religion out there. A version
yeah.
of do unto others.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh, Mike, have I got a person for you?
I was kind of hoping you'd say that
I
actually.
totally do. They're awesome. I love them. It's another author who I just met and I
Yeah,
adore them. So, yeah.
awesome. We'll talk.
Okay.
um, so so what has this been like for your kids? I mean,
Hmm.
how did that affect them?
That's
Do
a
we
great
want to
question. And
do we not want to touch that?
no, I would love to. I
Okay.
would, it's actually one of my favorite questions that I get because there are a lot of people first they asked, did you tell your kids, like, what was the order of operations? Did you tell them you're getting divorced? Did you tell them you were gay? Did you
Was there
tell
a
them all
list
together?
involved? Was like a one, two, three?
Well, this is the perfectionist in me. I had the full damn speech written out, Mike. I was like, this is going to be one of those core memories for them, and I don't want to F this up. So, um, but so when my now ex-husband and I came out to the kids, we decided it was important to tell them why. And it's because when we leave gaps in the story, with kids especially, they will fill in the gaps with their imagination.
Yep.
And I really didn't want my kids to assume that I didn't feel love for their dad, that he didn't feel love back for me. But I did have to explain to them that the love I feel for him is like we feel for our other family members and our friends. I love and care about him deeply. He's a wonderful person. The love that we feel for a person we want a romantic relationship with, that we want to date, that we want to marry,
Mhm.
that feeling I have for women. I said, and I actually started things. I said, do you know what a lesbian is? And my son was 6 years old at the time, and he said, what's a Lego bin? And I was
Lego
like, no,
bin.
it's not. No, this has nothing to do with Legos. It was one of my favorite lines, though. But my kids also had been raised with lesbian and gay couples in their lives, and
Oh,
so when I
okay.
said, oh, it's like this person and that person, or
Aunt
this person and
Sally
that
and
person,
yeah,
right? It didn't seem so strange to them. It was like, oh, people love who they love.
exactly.
Um, and so really, honestly, the queer part of it, um, people are like, oh, they're too young to even understand, but babies understand love from in utero.
Yep.
And this isn't about sex. This is
No.
about love and connection.
I think we don't give kids enough credit for what they can and cannot understand. I think we
Agreed.
just assume that, well, they're only 12, they're not going to understand, the concept of this. And
Right.
I think that's a big mistake.
Right. And then I'm like, but think about this though, too. Like, when did you have your first crush? Or like, have you
Right?
ever heard anyone who's like, oh, their preschool girlfriend, their preschool boyfriend? Like, kids get the concept. It's just we have added this weird layer of somehow queerness is different. And when I explained it to my son one time, he came home because there was another student in his class in third grade who was calling people gay. And he said, Mom, this kid was calling people gay and it made a girl cry. And so he's like, is gay a good thing or a bad thing? And I said, well, that's a great question. And unfortunately, we're in Florida, so the teacher wasn't even allowed to discuss it with them. But I said, it's not good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. It's like, are you left-handed or are you right-handed? Some people are straight. Some people are gay. It is what it is. And I know that's like the oversimplified version. There's a lot more emotion that we put behind it now, but my hope is that eventually we won't. Right. And that it just is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was the kids. I think the harder thing for them, divorce was obviously hard for them, but I feel like we're co-parenting as in the best way possible. The harder thing is how they are received in society. They have started to realize more that there are people who will automatically judge us and be unkind to us just because there are two moms pushing the shopping cart at Target.
That's just so ridiculous to me. But, I mean, there are those people.
Too. Yeah, it makes life harder for them, and for what? Like, just let us shop. Just let us shop for our rainbow doormat, and I don't know. Like, we're just the same weird family who fights over who's going to load the dishwasher and whose turn is it to, whatever. I don't know, but
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they probably see this. They probably see you having the same arguments that 100%. You had with your husband.
Absolutely. There's just so many more words.
Right.
So many more words when you have two women involved.
I never even considered that.
Oh, yeah. I love it. It's awesome. But
so, yeah, I mean, so many more words, right?
Yes. Speaking of words.
Yes.
I don't want to lose track of this. Would you mind if I shared some of my thoughts about words that are good but could be better, and then some things that would have been so good to hear when I came out?
Absolutely. Please.
Okay. So these are the things that people said to me where, because I was like an open wound when coming out, I was extra sensitive to them. And the one is the first one you mentioned, where it's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Again, totally fine. But I just watched a clip from, I don't know if you watched Ted Lasso at all. I am obsessed.
I haven't watched this season yet. Don't spoil it.
Oh, I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a clip that that was just on this last week. And basically they said, it's not that I don't care. I do care. I care so much, and I'm going to show up for you. So, yeah, wow. Anyone out there, Ted Lasso, most recent season, you will get that moment. It's gorgeous. Another thing someone said to me that was really hard is, are you sure? There's a lot of, which when you wait 38 years to come out, no, I'm not sure. I mean, I wish I could still, but I'm doubting myself all over the place. So trying to avoid that. Some people said, oh, I knew that, or I figured. And then, as much as some people don't necessarily mind that, I've never heard a queer person also enjoying that response, because then it's like, well, why didn't you say something? Or why, and again, it's supportive-ish.
Yes.
I'm totally cool with this. And yeah, I already figured, but it's a little, I don't know. It just made me feel a little off kilter when people would say that. And the last one, and this is kind of a hard one, and I know this is where a lot of parents go to, is I love you no matter what. And the only reason why I wanted to throw that in there is, like, think about the situations where we say, I love you no matter what.
I think
it's usually when you've fucked up on something, right?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't do well on a test, and it's like, I love you no matter what. I would love to take some of the shame that inherently comes along with queerness and how it's packaged to us in our current society, and just say, I love you. Just keep it short.
Yeah.
Um, so
Kiss.
those
Keep
are
it simple,
my
stupid.
thoughts. Right, right. And so those are, again, if you say those things, it's not like, oh my gosh, but we can make this even more kind. Some
That's
things I
awesome.
love to hear.
Those are
Some
great.
things, thank you. Some things I loved to hear is when people would say, I'm so honored that you shared that with me.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
That would be
I'm
very
proud of
impactful.
you. Yeah, I'm proud of you. That must have been hard. Acknowledging that this was not an easy decision to come out. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And if you can't, if the thought of saying those things, if you have your own feelings around the LGBTQIA2S plus, that you don't feel like you can get to the point where, because maybe it doesn't feel wonderful to you. Maybe you don't think this is a wonderful thing. And so it's going to be disingenuous to say, that's wonderful, and then roll your eyes. If you can't be proud or loving or kind, be curious. So you could just say something like, how are you feeling? Somebody comes out, ask them how they're feeling in that moment.
And be ready to sit and listen to the answer.
And listen.
Yes.
Or tell me more about it. What does that mean for you? This, particularly when people are coming out, if you don't understand what non-binary means, tell me what that means to you. What does this feel like for you?
Right.
How can I support you?
That's perfect.
Or what do you need from me in this moment? Or what do you need from me now? Because oftentimes, too, I think what you'll find out is people are not asking you to show up at the Pride Parade with them.
Right.
They just want to be loved. They want to be trusted that the decision they made to come out and to live in integrity with themselves, that you trust them to do the right thing for themselves.
Yes. They want everything that every other human wants. They want to be loved. That's it.
100%.
And that goes back to the humanity thing. This person just wants what you want. Mm-hmm. Same things. They want their kids to be happy. They want to be loved. They want to feel authentic. And yeah, that's perfect. I love that.
Yeah. So, Mike, if you would allow me, I would like to offer your listeners something right now.
Ooh, lucky.
One thing I've realized is that we don't have a lot of spaces in our society where people who are trying to navigate their feelings about the LGBTQ and what they're going through with family members, whether you're the person coming out or the person that somebody has come out to, we don't have a lot of spaces where we feel like we can speak and not feel judged in it. And so I would like to offer to your listeners a free 15-minute session with me where I'm happy to hold space for them, listen to their story.
Oh my God.
If they need more consultation, and again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a life coach, I'm just an author with a minivan filled with goldfish crackers and a weird sense of humor. But I feel like I've reached a place of healing where I don't need to defend. I don't need to argue. I just want to hear you. I want to meet you where you're at and be here to support you in that.
That is huge because there are people out there who maybe somebody came out to them and they didn't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
And you would be an excellent resource for
I would
somebody
love to.
just ask questions.
Yes, 100%. Whatever they want to talk about, I am here.
That's so amazing and so generous of you.
I feel like it's my purpose here on Earth. I feel like that's why I came out so late. I had to walk the straight path so that I could see the contrast with what queer people go through.
The straight
that I
path.
Didn't have to. Yeah.
Is that some kind of hetero joke?
Kind of. Hey-o!
Hey-o! Oh boy. Right now we're hauling out Ed McMahon. Wow.
Yep. I feel like we had to end it on a weird note, Mike. I mean, we
Let's
started
make it
weird. Let's end it weird.
Yeah, let's just finish it weird. That was so awesome. Jillian, thank you so much for the gift of your time. I know if my listeners are if they were brave and they listened through, despite what maybe the title of the podcast was, kudos to them for wanting to understand and for trying to understand, and kudos to you for living your truth and your authentic self. And I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for spreading more kindness in this world, Mike. We need 1 million Mikes in this world.
Oh, nobody needs that. Nobody even needs one more Mike, really. But thank you for saying it. Take care.
Bye. Have a great day.
Each and every morning, you and I wake up and make dozens of decisions during the course of the day. Toast or oatmeal for breakfast. Sneakers or dress shoes. Jeans or slacks. Sometimes we come upon a choice between saying something kind or saying something unkind, based on a belief or based in fear or unfounded facts. I listened to another podcast featuring my guest today, Jillian Abby, as she recounted 2 incidents of people making conscious decisions that turned out to be unkind. In the first situation, she was meeting with the administrator of her children's private school to let her know that she was putting her kids back in public school. This administrator, whom Jillian considered an ally, mentioned the danger of public schools. When Jillian asked her what she meant by danger, the administrator leaned in and said, "The gay agenda." In the other incident, Jillian and her kids were attending a pride festival, and a man dressed all in black, with body cameras all over him and a megaphone, told Jillian, with the megaphone, that she was evil, in front of her kids. To somebody like me, who is not a member of the LGBTQ community, the man in black seems more upsetting. But Jillian, being the patient and kind soul that she is, told me that the administrator was more personally upsetting to her, because she thought that woman was an ally, until she proved she most definitely was not. The man in black was a known commodity. She knew his type and could make plans to avoid him and others like him. Are there people in the world that I don't like or get along with? Of course. As much as I would like to think that every single person on the planet could get along and allow their neighbors to live their lives without interference, and we just aren't there yet. To paraphrase Matthew McConaughey from Dazed and Confused, it'd be a lot cooler if we did, though. If we could simply remember that every single person we come in contact with on a daily basis is first and foremost another human being deserving of the same love and respect that we ourselves crave, that they are mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, just trying to go about their lives the best they know how. And if we could use that as the basis for the decisions we make when we interact with them, the world would be a better place. Thank you for the gift of your time today. Please remember to be that person who roots for others, who tells a stranger that they look amazing, and encourages others to believe in themselves and their dreams. You've been listening to the Kindness Matters podcast, and I am your host, Mike Rathbun. Have a fantastic week.